the revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.
Matt Lenihan for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and R Kings. We've been joined by Gareth A. Davies. Gareth, hope you had a good Christmas. We're obviously coming up to the end of the new year. Whereabouts are you now? Are you there for bare knuckle?
No, I am away on holiday, so I'm doing a special with you.
Magic.
But I'm in the Far East on holiday. I've got friends arriving tonight. We're celebrating New Year. But obviously, I'm feeling extremely sad at the moment, given the news on Monday afternoon from Nigeria, from the road from Lagos to Ibadan, where tragically Anthony Joshua lost two of his very close friends, and family lost their sons. I don't know if they're fathers, but I've got to say it straight away to Kevin Ayodele and Sinogami. I don't know them intimately. Obviously, I've seen them around Anthony for a long time. Kind of good guys that pretty much keep themselves to themselves. As you know, they don't kind of come and talk to you all the time. They're very much Anthony Joshua's guys, and I've been with him a long time. And it was absolutely tragic to hear of their passing in a car crash. And the weird scenes of Anthony Joshua in pain being helped out of the SUV on the expressway after the crash.
Yeah, just horrendous scenes that I don't think no one could predict anything like this when it happens. Anthony and his friend were playing table tennis just a few hours before. I'd seen that go up on his story, just as you do, flicking through social media, and he's coming off the back of a huge event, and then tragedy strikes, and two men lose their lives, and Anthony's now obviously had this horrendous experience that he's going to have to deal with. But just on behalf of Boxing Social, everybody's behind Anthony. We send us love and support to the families of both Lats and Sinner, and I suppose it's difficult, really, isn't it, to sort of digest it when it were all coming out.
Well, it's the time of year. It's the fact that Anthony's just been, writ large in the news. I was out in Miami with him for the Jake Paul fight. Had some extraordinary access to both of them as well. So it's really, and at the time of year, obviously, massive condolences, the deepest condolences to all of them involved. They were clearly with him to see him through that period. I remember him saying to me that he's going to have 9 days just body recovering, those kind of things, and then get back into camp again. And without speculating too much, because obviously the reports are out there for everybody to read in terms of what happened. They were clearly very unlucky. And maybe Anthony Joshua extremely lucky. So not, to escape with his life. That this is something that they're going to have to deal with, over the next few weeks and years and months, as the families come to terms with their loss, and it'd be interesting to see how Anthony Joshua goes into 2026. We don't know whether he's sustained injuries as well. It was clearly a very, very threatening crash that they had on that Ibadan expressway.
Yeah, I think just to sort of finish talking about this subject, I think my first thoughts is it's just more him as the person to go through all that. Obviously, with the families of the two men that obviously have lost their lives, but then obviously because Anthony's in this position now, it's just you just want to see him as a human being, healing somewhere, moving forward the best way he can. But yeah, it was horrendous this time of year especially. But Yeah, I suppose we had this interview planned. I want to just say that before, obviously, all
Yeah.
this sort of has happened, and we always plan on talking about boxing and things like that. But I think I'm glad we've touched on that just to sort of almost pay tribute to them boys and what's happened. Um, January moving into the boxing, into what we're actually going to be doing and attending. It's a busy and fast start to the year, Gareth, coming up. We start with Dalton Smith, I believe. We then kick on and it goes to Andy Cruz. We're seeing Josh Kelly fight for a world title. Adam Azim's back. Teofimo Lopez. It's one hell of a January coming up.
Yeah, and you mentioned 5 or 6 fights there, and I think that is just January.
It is. All of that's January.
And the other side of the Teo Lopez there is Shakur Stevenson. I think that's the. I mean, obviously the Dalton Smith fight I must touch on because obviously that's going ahead in spite of the steroids that were found in the system of Subriel Matias, but obviously below the levels which create a ban. So it's an anomalous test. I saw Subriel Matias interviewed by Mike Coppinger for The Ring a couple of days ago, and he was vehement, Matias, that he's never been a drug cheat. Obviously, one of the fighters on his record passed away after a fight. So people vehemently defend their innocence in these scenarios. Obviously, Dalton Smith's going to go ahead with the fight. I wish him all the best in that. I think he matches against Matias very well stylistically. So we could celebrate a new world champion in the early part of 2026. Adam Azim gets a chance to light up the BBC late in the month, which is brilliant for him. I think he had an outstanding year this year, and also, you know, he's told me already that he wants to get on Strictly Come Dancing. He's a salsa dancer. He's married now. I think he's had a child. Oh, he's got a child on the way, or had a child. I can't remember whether I'm being accurate there. He certainly got married recently, and for me, the Shakur Stevenson gets the chance to prove that he can climb that pound for pound list. I believe he will get to the top of it, but he needs to beat Teo Lopez, a naturally bigger man with all the capabilities to beat him. Like you say, an incredible January, and then Moses Itauma is early in February.
Moses Itauma is oh my god! Like I have to apologise.
You've forgotten it. January the 14th, is it?
Right. I got to hold my hands up. January. It's because I'm planning out a potential. I was planning out my route then, selfishly in my own head of what I'm covering.
You're not going to attend Itauma. You're not going to attend Itauma.
We have it covered. We are covering it. I'm in my head. I'm working out a route of where I'm traveling to, but no, the potentially the future, where it looks like he is the future against Jermaine Franklin in. For me, what is it's the perfect fight at the right time to see where this young man is at, and where we all think he's at is it's a very promising place. And look, we've seen what Franklin can do against a Joshua, a Dillian White. A lot of people thought he beat Dillian, and that was a few years ago. You think
it was close? It was competitive. It was close.
But do you think
AJ was? Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, sorry to sort of half cut each other off. Do you think this is the right opponent for Moses at this time? That good sort of bridge guy.
Yeah, I think he'll wipe him out. And if he gets some rounds in, great. If he gets 7 or 8 rounds in, great. But he's a very aggressive, heavy punching fighter. Anthony Joshua was very gun shy in that fight. And Dillian White had no momentum going into it. And look, Franklin, I watched Franklin live against Ivan Ditchko in September at the Crawford undercard at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. I thought he was very ordinary on that night, so he's not really coming in with a lot of momentum. And I thought, it wasn't a great fight, but I thought he just scraped his way through that against Ditchko. So I think Moses will deal with him, and I think he'll stop him.
Do you think we're seeing reports that Usyk Wilder looks like it's on its way? I spoke to Wilder out in Dubai for the IBA when talks were sort of heating up, and it looks like we may be edging closer to it. What do you make of that? I think we touched on it once, twice before. I weren't sure if this was going to come to fruition just from the run that Usyk's on, but he's obviously chasing names and legacy, and Wilder's chasing what, if he manages to pull this off, will be an incredible comeback in boxing.
Yeah, I don't see Wilder winning it. Obviously, he's still got that incredible power, and if he lands he's got a big puncher's chance against Alexander Usyk. Usyk's picking him for a reason, as I think I told you before. He rounds the era with it. He completes the era with a name that in 20 years' time they'll go, oh, that's the guy that defended the world title for 7 years, the WBC title, and had a great trilogy of fights with Tyson Fury. The big. Again, to mention Anthony Joshua, the shame is that the Wilder never stepped in against Anthony Joshua. But if he pulls off the improbable against Alexander Usyk, that Anthony Joshua fight will probably be there.
Absolutely. When you look at the last year that we've had and some of the events that we've had, who would you pick as your sort of fighter of the year? I've seen a lot of these awards coming out. Whoever's picking them, I don't know half the time, but if you had to pick your sort of male and female fighter of the year, where do you sort of lie with that?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I made a few notes when I was sitting by the pool waiting for you to call me. And I'm going to go, I've got 4 fighters of the year in reverse order. And they are, namely because and I've kind of changed my mind after Saturday night. I'm going Bam Rodriguez at 4.
Yeah.
Alexander Usyk at 3 for his brilliant. Again, these guys are only fighting once a year at the moment. Alexander Usyk for his victory and the way he carried himself against Daniel Dubois at Wembley. Originally, I'd gone for Terence Crawford because of the majesty and brilliance of his performance against Saul Canelo Alvarez at an event which I could not believe he dominated so much and which I'd gone back and forth on for so long. It was Terence Crawford. But yes, Crawford is almost equal pegging, but I'm going Naoya Inoue after the 4 victories this year against Yoo Jun Kim, then Ramon Cardenas, which is one of the fights of the year, Murodjon Akhmadaliev that Eddie said Inoue was avoiding, and then another brilliant performance in which he made David Alan Picasso, an undefeated fighter, look very ordinary. And even though he tired and slowed a little bit in the last couple of rounds, and Picasso painted some of his majesty, if you like, on the canvas a couple of times in the 11th and 12th rounds, for me, I think it's Naoya Inoue. Because to defend your titles 4 times in a year, to win belts, to keep that busy at his stage in his career and fight the way he's fighting, for me, he's the number one. I was going to say
that, just touching on that, was it you've sort of just cleared it up, but the activity that he has had, we see these stars, and like you mentioned, a lot of fighters once, twice a year. If you're lucky, you look at the Floyd Mayweather blueprint. He used to do it. Your May, Septembers, and you're picking. I say you're picking and choosing when that to strike. When kind of thing. When you're at that top level, he just goes back to back to back to back and carry on. Is that ultimately what tipped it for you? Because Crawford's win against Canelo, many people will go, no, that's him. But is that what sort of tipped the scale for you when you go? I was at the Cardenas fight was a brilliant fight. I was there for that, incredible. And then to do that with a guy who is undefeated, maybe because he hasn't got that dance partner, that name. And obviously, we're looking at Nakatani now. People talking about the Bam fight. He's got some couple of big fights coming up, depending on how it all pans out.
I think the guy I'd like to see him fight is I'd like to see him do 2 fights. After the weekend, just to recap on that, I thought Sebastian Hernandez is a very durable, powerful, strong fighter at Super B, but I thought Nakatani was exposed a little bit at the weight. Even though he was smart in the last few rounds, I thought he won easily in the early part of the fight. Hernandez came back, but I don't particularly want to see Naoya Inoue and Nakatani on the back of that performance. I think Nakatani is who's in the Ring Magazine pound for pound top 10. Yes, he's been brilliant. Yes, he's undefeated still. Yes, he's had 3 undefeated fighters on his records in the last 3 fights, and you've got to give him his props. But I'm not sure that he belongs there. I think he's outside it, and I think Inoue bests him easily. And I've lost interest in that fight. I'd like to see Inoue fight at featherweight, and like to see him fight Nick Ball, and I'd like
Yeah.
to see Bam step up next year to fight him as well. Nick Ball and Bam Rodriguez will be maybe Nakata. If Inoue could have 3 fights next year, I'd
Yeah.
love it to be Nick Ball, Nakatani, Nick Ball, Bam Rodriguez, with Bam stepping up.
I think I saw Carl Frampton comment saying that Nick Ball gives Inoue a nightmare. He said it before. I've seen it in a Boxing News interview. He said he gives him nightmares, and he said, "I've said it before. I'll say it again. We can't deny Inoue's greatness, but if he jumps up to featherweight, Nick Ball beats him." Do you
No,
see that?
no,
No.
no. And I love Nick Ball, and I've got so much time for him. And again, I'll come to that in a minute. He's one of my British fighters of the year, right up there. No, I think I think Inoue completely outboxes him, hits him where he is, doesn't see it coming. I think Nick will be game, but I think Naoya Inoue wins that on points, and I think he wins it well on points.
Who's his toughest fight? Who's the fight that he can have where you go, there's genuine jeopardy? Does he have to go up to
Well,
the point where
featherweight's
it's
fifth division, isn't
featherweight?
it, Matt? So
Yeah.
it's the fifth division. Nick's got an amazing style. He swarms you. He never stops coming. He's incredibly durable. He's incredibly tough. But I just think Inouye's boxing skills will win him that fight. But I think it's a great fight. I've called for it for 2 years.
Absolutely. When you look at the WBC, the rankings for featherweight, let me just remind myself, who is the featherweight? Is it Rafael Espinosa, who's one of the champions in that division? Espinosa, I think he's the WBO. See, I look at a guy like that and think he's absolutely massive at the weight, blistering power. If he steps up and fights with, say, Nick Ball, I agree, but 28 fights, 24 KOs. If you put someone like him in with Inoue, that to me is complete fireworks as well. But then it's like when does it stop kind of thing. Like he's weight classes for a reason, but he's got to
He'll
make this
fight.
jump.
Yeah, featherweight will be the ultimate. He will never go up to super featherweight. He's not big enough. And featherweight might be a push, but like I'm saying, I think the skill levels that Inoue shows and his ability. I just think it'll be a great fight with Nick Ball, but I just think Inoue will win pretty much 8-4, something like that. That's how I see it. I mean, I'd love Nick to do it because he's never going to get a bigger victory than Naoya Inoue, a bigger name on his record. And maybe we'd see the rematch in maybe at Anfield so I know, can you imagine?
No, that'd be great. I'd love to cover a fight there. Sign up to get a ticket to the match. Female fighter of the year.
Yeah, I've actually made some notes on that as well. But if I can just say my British fighters of the year, if
go
you
for it.
don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I thought I've got to say Fabio Wardley because of the victories against Justice Hooney, brilliant night at Portman Road in the rain, and the Joseph Parker fight was one of the fights of the year for me because of the drama involved and the fact that he was installed as WBO champion and the extraordinary storyline. I mean, I've celebrated it with Fabio. I've celebrated it with his family. I've not celebrated with his family, but with his mother and the storyline, and from headhunter in the office to headhunter in the ring, the 8-year journey, quite incredible. So Fabio has to be right up there. Nick Ball is in that list as well, by the way. And not forgetting anyone. I'd like to say Moses Itauma as well, because he's not put a foot wrong. He's carried himself brilliantly. What he did in Riyadh made a massive statement around the world. The Americans they're still not fully sold on him yet. And I keep telling them, you need to believe. You don't like to believe that we've got greatness coming from the UK because they think our lovely scruffy cousins that they dominate the boxing world. But and I mean that lovingly. But it's for me, it's Moses Itauma, Nick Ball, then Fabio Wardley at number 1.
Yeah, I don't think you can deny Fabio. Fabio's year has been incredible. His story is is completely ridiculous when you look at where he's come from. And Nick Ball and Moses Itauma, I keep telling people, like, the American side of things is so different. When you do have someone over here, it's like, oh, we get these guys all the time. There's almost that like feel of, oh, we've seen all these kind of guys, but there is a big feeling Moses Itauma is the next one. And I spoke to Dan Rafael the other day, and we were talking about, like the mega fights in boxing, saying like Fury and Joshua's the big one, the this, that, the other, and you say, well, say that fight happens or doesn't happen. What's the next huge fight? And who's the next sort of stars coming through? And you look around and you actually go, Moses in a few years when he starts getting the names.
By the end of next year, Matt, I think Moses will be very big. I mean, the Franklin fight will project him, and then soon that he'll have one more, and then he'll be in world title contention, in my view. Yeah. Imagine Moses Itauma against Fabio Wardley by the end of next year. Enormous.
Yeah, I think that's
not the money spinner, not the global money spinner that Fury and Joshua is, but still certainly big. On my women's fighters, my female fighter of the year in the UK is Ellie Scotney. Yeah. My rising star to watch out for is Tia May Ayton. I met her coach recently, and I've met her, and I think I didn't know a lot about her, but I've been studying her. She looks amazing. I thought Lauren Price had another great year. Caroline Dubois did very well out in America, and I think she'll become sensational if she has a big kind of like build up to a fight with an Alicia Baumgardner. I think she's capable of beating her. I think that's a great 50-50 fight. And in America, if you want to talk about fights of the year as well, ran into Michaela Mayer in Miami at the Joshua Jake Paul fight, and I thought her second fight with Sandy Ryan was one of the fights of the year in female boxing as well.
Yeah, I think Michaela, especially when she had a few close nip and tuck decisions as well, so she's come back and cemented herself as well, one of the sort of leading figures of the women's side of the game. So no, I'm completely with you on that.
Fight of the year,
go for it. Yep. Go on. I didn't know how many subcategories you've got. I wasn't even sure I'm going to ask you these.
I've been looking at these things at the moment because a lot of people, in all the outlets I work with and for, are asking me, and I needed to make my notes on it. Go on, who's yours then? Let me ask you first. Who's yours?
I don't know. There's been quite a few. But, I remember Inoue and Cardenas was one that always sticks in mind. I really enjoyed. There was one that's probably gone under the radar on the Benavidez Morel undercard, Pitbull.
Cruz Fierro.
Oh my God, sign me up every day.
I've got that down. It was amazing.
That was, I'm not joking, when you go to an event and an undercard and you're looking forward to every fight and you see that before the main event, you're like, it's going to take
I know, but the thing is, there's that thing about enjoying a fight on TV or enjoying it on a stream, but when you are so riveted, and when a fight's so exciting, when a fight's very slow and there's not a lot of action, it feels like watching a fight for 2 hours. When a fight's extraordinarily exciting and you can't pick a winner of each round and you can't wait for the next round to begin, and it's an intense experience. These kind of fights, they feel like they last 5 minutes, but and how they do it, I just do not know.
I'm still as well. I keep thinking this is like 2 years ago. It's that long since we've seen Bivol, but Bivol and Beterbiev earlier on in the year, I still think that is like the elite of the elite. As in,
yes,
you might not get the bang, crash, and wallop of a knockout, a last-minute drama, but in terms of what the eye can see and the technical ability of both men, I was watching that, and you sort of just like, you're there to work, but you're like, take nothing away from these two. This is brilliant. But anyway, go on, fire yours off. They were just a couple that come to mind for me.
Yeah, I've got to go in a few minutes. So but my fights of the year, my number one to be at was Eubank Ben 1 because it was just amazing, the whole atmosphere. Cruz and Fierro I've got down on the Benavidez Morel undercard, as you rightly say. Beterbiev and Bivol 2, and another one in Riyadh. I mentioned Parker and Wardley. Mayer and Ryan 2, Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith. Joshua Buatsi was an extraordinary exposition of brilliant skills It was the best I've ever seen Joshua Buatsi, and I think it was the best I've ever seen Callum Smith. And obviously someone had to lose it. Weirdly, and maybe the Smiths will never forgive me for this, I actually scored it a draw. Even the highlights in my mind were very much Callum Smith. Extraordinary fight. But there's one other fight I'm picking out as well, which deserves special praise, and it hasn't been mentioned enough this year. And it's Abdullah Mason and Sam Noakes, which was a brilliant fight.
Wow.
And Sam Noakes went up so far in my estimation.
Yeah, you know what? That should be somewhere near, because that's still quite fresh in the mind. I thought that was one of the best fights, 100%, and two solid young fighters as well. Yeah, wow, what a fight that was. It's been a good year, Gareth. We've had you on the channel, nearly enough every week, chopping it up. Fingers crossed 2026 is much more of the same, and we'll have a hell of a lot to talk about at the end of January. So wish you well. I know you've got a lot of things to catch up on. Appreciate you joining us, and have a good new year, my mate.
Always a pleasure. Well done on a great year, and I'll catch you, Boxing Social, Matt Lenihan, in 2026.
You will. Thank you.
The revolutionary ankle lock system, an integrated brace built into the boots, delivering unrivaled support, protecting ligaments from twists, tears, and trauma.